In the bitter chill of a relentless winter night on the frontier, an old rancher known for his quiet solitude found himself facing a choice that would forever change the course of his life. The biting wind howled across the barren land, carrying with it the desperate cries of a boy frozen and alone, lost to the unforgiving cold. Without hesitation, the rancher tore his worn blanket from his back and shared it with the shivering child, an act of kindness that few expected from a man hardened by years of hardship. But what happened by sunrise was something no one in that rugged town could have imagined. As dawn broke, the rancher awoke not to silence or solitude, but to a sight that warmed his weathered heart. His fence, once bare and forgotten, now stood lined with gifts, tokens of gratitude from neighbors moved by the boy's story and the rancher's compassion. These were not mere objects, but symbols of a community stirred to kindness by a single selfless deed. The old man's quiet generosity had woven a thread of hope through a landscape often marked by struggle and survival. This story goes beyond the harsh realities of frontier life. It is a testament to the power of human connection in the face of adversity. The rancher's blanket was more than just fabric against the cold. It became a beacon of warmth, inspiring others to look beyond their own hardships and reach out with open hands and hearts. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest act can ignite a fire of goodwill that changes everything. In a world where every man fought to endure, this tale reveals a rare glimpse of mercy and community, showing how one act of kindness can ripple outward, transforming strangers into allies and hardship into hope. It challenges us to consider how our own actions might touch lives in ways we never expect, even in the coldest and most desolate of places. So stay with me, because what you are about to hear is not just a story of survival, but a powerful journey of warmth, generosity, and the extraordinary strength found in the human spirit. Even in the wild, unforgiving West, the old rancher, known as Silas, had lived on that land longer than most could remember. His weathered hands and sun-beaten face told tales of endless toil and quiet resilience. Silas was a man of routine, one who found solace in the steady rhythms of ranch life, where the cattle grazed and the wind whispered secrets through the tall prairie grass. His neighbors often said he was tough, a man who didn't easily open his heart, until the winter night changed everything. That bitter evening, as the temperature dropped below freezing and snow blanketed the earth, Silas heard faint cries carried by the wind. Drawn by instinct and something deeper in his soul, he followed the desperate sounds until he found a young boy, barely clinging to life, his tiny body stiff with cold and fear. The boy's clothes were tattered, and his breath came in shallow, frosty puffs. Without a second thought, Silas wrapped his own blanket around the child, feeling the weight of warmth and responsibility settle upon him like never before. Inside Silas's modest cabin, the boy slowly regained color, soothed by the fire's flickering glow and Silas's steady presence. The rancher made simple meals, offering more than just food, a promise of safety in a world that had shown the boy so little kindness. As the night deepened, Silas's heart softened, understanding that this child was more than a stray. He was a spark of hope in the lonely wilderness. Their silence spoke volumes, two souls united by survival and the rare gift of compassion. Word of the frozen boy's rescue spread through the nearby settlement by morning. People murmured about the old rancher who had given up his own warmth for a child no one knew, breaking through Silas's tough exterior with a gesture that rekindled faith in the human spirit. The community, weathered by hardship and isolation themselves, felt stirred by the story, reminded that even the coldest nights could be warmed by simple acts of generosity. But what happened at sunrise surpassed all expectations. As Silas stepped outside, he found his fence lined with gifts, bundles of food, blankets, and handmade trinkets left by neighbors touched by the boy's plight and Silas's kindness. It was as if the land itself had responded to that single night's mercy, weaving a tapestry of gratitude and renewed community spirit that would forever change the rancher's life. As the days passed, the boy, whom Silas learned was named Eli, began to heal, not only physically but in spirit. The ranch became a refuge, a place where the cold past was softened by the warmth of new beginnings. Silas and Eli shared quiet moments in the mornings, watching the sun rise over endless fields, the boys' laughter slowly replacing the silence that once filled the cabin. It was a bond forged in adversity, built on trust and the unspoken understanding that they were no longer alone. Neighbors who had once kept their distance now found reasons to visit, drawn by the tale of the old rancher and the boy he saved. Gifts continued to appear, each a symbol of community rekindled, of hands reaching out across the harshness of the West to create a network of support. Silas, once a solitary figure, began to feel the threads of connection weaving through the fabric of his life. The fence that had stood bare became a living symbol of generosity and shared humanity. But the West was never without its challenges. Harsh winters tested the resilience of both man and land, and rumors spread of bandits lurking nearby, looking to exploit any sign of weakness. Silas's protective nature intensified, his sharp eyes watching over Eli and the growing circle of neighbors with renewed vigilance. Yet even in the face of danger, the spirit of kindness that had sparked that first night refused to fade, inspiring courage in those who had long forgotten hope. One evening, as a fierce storm rolled over the prairie, Silas gathered Eli and several neighbors inside the warmth of his cabin. Stories were shared, fears voiced, and plans made to watch over one another in the long winter nights. In those moments, the ranch transformed from mere shelter to a fortress of trust, where the strength of human connection was a shield stronger than any gun or wall. Silas realized that the true power of his blanket's warmth was in how it had united a community. Eli's presence brought new purpose to Silas's days, reminding him that even the coldest winters could give way to spring. The ranch, once a lonely outpost, became a beacon of hope for those struggling against the harshness of frontier life. The gifts left at the fence were more than tokens. They were a testament to the ripple effect of kindness, proving that one small act could awaken the best in an entire community. Winter's grip tightened, turning the landscape into a frozen expanse that tested the mettle of every soul who dared to call it home. Silas worked tirelessly, ensuring the cattle were fed and the fences stood firm against the biting winds. Yet his thoughts often drifted to Eli, whose small frame had begun to show signs of strength but still bore the scars of abandonment and cold. The boy's resilience was a quiet testament to the human spirit's ability to endure even the harshest trials, and Silas found himself more determined than ever to protect this fragile new life. The community that had rallied around Silas and Eli grew stronger as well. Men and women once isolated by the vast distances between homesteads now exchanged greetings and support, sharing supplies and news in the spirit of survival. The gifts at Silas's fence became a symbol not only of gratitude, but of a collective vow, a promise to watch over one another, no matter how fierce the storm. This newfound unity was a lifeline, knitting together lives that the wilderness had once threatened to sever. One particularly bitter night, the sound of hooves echoed faintly through the snow. Silas's hand instinctively moved to his rifle, heart pounding as the familiar shadows of bandits loomed near the ranch's edge. The community had warned of their approach, desperate men willing to steal warmth and hope to fuel their own survival. But Silas was ready, not just with weapons, but with the strength of a united front. His neighbors stood beside him, a testament to how a single act of kindness could ripple outward in a steadfast loyalty. The standoff that followed was tense and raw. The bandits, hardened by hunger and desperation, confronted a ranch fortified not by walls alone, but by the spirit of a community unwilling to surrender. Silas's voice cut through the cold air, calm but resolute, as he negotiated and defended with a quiet authority born from years on the frontier. In the end, the intruders were driven off, their threat thwarted by the collective courage that had blossomed from one night's warmth shared between a man and a boy. That victory was more than survival. It was a declaration. The ranch was no longer a solitary outpost, but a beacon of hope and defiance. Silas and Eli, alongside their neighbors, had transformed the unforgiving landscape into a place where humanity could thrive. Their story spread, inspiring others to believe that even in the harshest conditions, kindness and community could triumph over fear and isolation. Spring approached slowly, melting the snow and awakening the earth beneath Silas's feet. The ranch, once blanketed in white silence, burst to life with the vibrant colors of new growth. Eli, now stronger and more confident, helped tend the cattle and mend fences, his laughter a melody that breathed hope into the once lonely homestead. Silas watched with pride as the boy's spirit blossomed, a living reminder that warmth could grow even from the coldest nights. The neighbors continued their visits, their gifts now exchanged with smiles and stories rather than necessity. The fence that had once been a symbol of generosity transformed into a gathering place, where friendships were forged and futures planned. The shared hardships had woven a tapestry of resilience and mutual care, binding lives in a way that no force of nature could unravel. Silas understood that this was the true gift his blanket had given, a community reborn. Yet, the West remained unpredictable. Tales of new settlers and rival ranchers brought challenges and opportunities alike. Silas knew that protecting their way of life required more than strength. It demanded wisdom and diplomacy. He began reaching out beyond the immediate neighbors, fostering connections that could safeguard their future and expand the circle of support born from that single night's mercy. Eli's journey mirrored this growth. From a frightened, frozen boy to a young man eager to carve his place in the world, he embodied the transformative power of kindness. Silas saw in him not only a son, but a legacy, a testament to how a single selfless act could echo across generations. Together, they planned for seasons ahead, knowing that the harsh land would continue to test them, but confident that their bond and community would endure. As the sun set over the blooming prairie, Silas stood by his fence, surrounded by gifts and the warmth of newfound family. The story of the old rancher and the frozen boy had become more than legend. It was a living testament to the strength found in compassion and the extraordinary ways one act of kindness could light up even the darkest frontier. With spring's arrival, the rhythm of life at the ranch settled into a hopeful cadence. Silas and Eli worked side by side beneath skies that stretched endlessly, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Eli's laughter, once rare and fragile, now echoed across the fields, blending with the gentle hum of nature awakening from its frozen slumber. To Silas, the boy was no longer just a charge but a reminder that even the coldest nights could give way to a future filled with promise. The neighbors, inspired by the tale of the shared blanket and the community it sparked, began organizing gatherings, simple celebrations of survival and connection. Around campfires, stories of hardship gave way to laughter and song, weaving a tapestry of belonging that had once seemed impossible. Silas found himself at the center of a growing network of support, a living testament to how one act of kindness could transform not just a life, but an entire community. Yet beneath the warmth, Silas remained vigilant. The West was a land of changing fortunes and constant challenges. News came of land disputes and new settlers pushing boundaries, stirring tensions that threatened the fragile peace. Silas understood that the fight to protect their way of life was ongoing, requiring not just strength but wisdom and patience. His role shifted from solitary rancher to guardian of a legacy forged in compassion. Eli, growing into his own manhood, embraced this new responsibility with quiet determination. The boy who once shivered under a borrowed blanket now stood tall beside Silas, ready to defend the land and community that had saved him. Their partnership became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of mercy, a legacy etched deep into the soil and souls of the West. As summer's warmth bathed the prairie, the ranch thrived, not just in crops or cattle, but in spirit. The fence lined with gifts had become a living monument to generosity, a daily reminder that even the smallest acts could spark a flame bright enough to light the darkest night. But the peace that Silas and Eli had nurtured was soon tested by forces beyond the horizon. A powerful landowner from a neighboring territory coveted the fertile soil and resources of their ranch. His arrival was accompanied by threats veiled in polite words and promises that masked greed. The community, once united by shared hardship, now faced the prospect of division, caught between survival and resistance. Silas stood firm, his years of experience guiding his decisions. He reached out to his neighbors and allies, calling on the strength born of their shared past. The bonds forged by the blanket's warmth were not just sentimental. They were the foundation of a united front against those who sought to exploit and divide. Together, they prepared to defend not only their land but the values that had brought them together. Eli's transformation was complete. Where once he was a vulnerable boy, he now carried the fierce heart of a protector. Side by side with Silas, he met with the landowner, standing resolute against intimidation. Their presence was a statement. This community would not be broken by greed or fear. The legacy of mercy and kindness was also one of strength and unyielding courage. As tensions mounted, the ranch became a symbol of resistance and hope. The gifts on the fence, the laughter of children, and the steady work of the people all spoke to a life worth fighting for. The community's spirit was a beacon, drawing others who believe in the power of unity and compassion to join their cause. What began as a simple act of sharing a blanket had blossomed into a movement that transcended the harsh realities of the Old West. Through storms, threats, and hardships, Silas and Eli's story endured, a powerful reminder that kindness is not weakness, but a seed from which resilience grows. Their journey stood as a testament to the truth that even in the wildest frontiers, the human heart has the power to build bridges, protect the vulnerable, and change the course of history. As summer faded into the golden hues of autumn, the ranch and its people stood resilient against the encroaching threats. The landowners' pressure increased. Lawyers sent letters. Mercenaries were spotted near the borders, and whispers of sabotage circulated through the community. But Silas, once a solitary man hardened by years of struggle, had become the steadfast heart of a united front. His resolve was unwavering, forged from the simple but powerful act of sharing his blanket with a frozen boy. Eli had grown not just in strength, but in wisdom, earning the respect of neighbors and strangers alike. His past hardships had carved deep empathy into his soul, making him a natural leader beside Silas. Together, they organized patrols, repaired defenses, and fostered a spirit of vigilance and hope. The ranch was no longer just a home. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when compassion met courage. The fence, once lined with gifts, now bore marks of wear and tear from harsh weather and countless struggles. Yet it remained a powerful emblem, reminding everyone that generosity and kindness had seeded a community that could weather any storm. Stories of the old rancher and the boy spread far and wide, inspiring others in the West to hold on to their humanity amid hardship. One evening, beneath a sky scattered with stars, Silas and Eli sat by the fire, reflecting on how far they had come. The journey from that cold winter night had been filled with trials, but also triumphs born of faith and unity. The ranch was more than a piece of land. It was a testament to the enduring strength of mercy and the unbreakable bonds forged through shared hardship. In that quiet moment, Silas understood that the true legacy he would leave behind was not measured by acres or cattle, but by the lives touched and the community built from a single act of kindness. The warmth of his blanket had ignited a fire that would continue to burn long after the prairie grasses had turned to dust. Winter approached once again, colder and more unforgiving than before, but the ranch and its people faced it with a confidence born of resilience. The community had grown, welcoming new families drawn by the story of hope and the promise of safety. The landowners' threats had lessened, worn down by the unwavering unity and the support of those who refused to let greed tear them apart. Eli, now a young man in his own right, took on greater responsibilities. His hands, once trembling from cold and fear, now worked tirelessly alongside Silas's, repairing fences and tending to the animals. His eyes held a fierce determination, reflecting the strength that kindness and trust had cultivated within him. The boy who was once frozen and alone had become a pillar of the community. The fence remained a sacred symbol, adorned with new gifts, tokens of gratitude, friendship, and a shared promise to protect one another. It told a story not just of survival, but of transformation. A story that proved, even in the harshest, coldest nights, warmth could be found, nurtured, and passed on. As the snow began to fall gently, Covering the land in a blanket of white, Silas stood at the edge of his property, watching the world he had helped shape. The past hardships, the battles, and the sacrifices seemed to fade beneath the peaceful silence of the snowfall. What remained was a legacy of hope, one that began with a simple act of compassion on a freezing winter's night. This legacy, etched in every gesture of kindness and every gift left by the fence, was a reminder that even in the wild, unforgiving West, the human spirit could find warmth, connection, and the strength to endure. As the seasons turned once more and the prairie began to awaken from its winter slumber, Silas found himself reflecting on the journey that had transformed his solitary existence into a tapestry of connection and community. The boy he had rescued, Eli, was no longer a fragile child clinging to warmth, but a young man filled with purpose and strength. Their bond had deepened beyond simple gratitude. It had become a shared mission to nurture the land and the people who called it home. The gifts that once lined the fence had multiplied, evolving from mere tokens of kindness into symbols of a collective spirit that refused to be broken by hardship or fear. Neighbors who had once been strangers now stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever trials the unforgiving West might throw their way. Together, they had forged a legacy rooted not only in survival, but in the unwavering belief that mercy and generosity could sow seeds of hope in even the most barren soil. Yet, Silas knew that peace in the West was as fleeting as the sunset, and with prosperity came new challenges. The powerful landowner who had once sought to seize their ranch had not disappeared. His ambitions had only grown more cunning and covert. Rumors whispered of legal battles, shady deals, and men who prowled in the shadows looking for any weakness to exploit. Despite these looming threats, the community remained resilient, their unity a fortress against the encroaching darkness. Silas and Eli spent long nights strategizing, calling on the alliances they had forged and the strength born of countless shared hardships. It was a testament to how a single act of compassion, the warmth of a shared blanket, could ripple outward, creating a shield strong enough to protect not just one life, but an entire community. They stood as living proof that kindness, when met with courage and conviction, could challenge even the most relentless storms. The final chapter of their journey unfolded under a sky heavy with the promise of change. A new generation was rising, children who had never known the bitter loneliness that once gripped Silas's heart or the desperate cold that nearly claimed Eli's life. They played and learned beneath the watchful eyes of their parents, growing up surrounded by the stories of endurance, sacrifice, and the extraordinary power of human kindness. Silas, now older and wiser, watched these moments with a quiet pride, knowing that the legacy of that one frozen night was alive and thriving in the laughter and hope of the future. The fence that once stood lined with gifts was now part of a flourishing homestead, a place where generosity was not just remembered, but lived daily in acts both small and grand. But beyond the peace they had fought so hard to secure, Silas understood that the true victory lay in the hearts of the people who had chosen to believe in each other. The West remained wild and unpredictable, yet within that vast, untamed land, they had carved out a sanctuary, a place where mercy and community could coexist with the rugged spirit of survival. This was not just a story about a rancher and a boy. It was a timeless lesson that even the harshest winters could be softened by the warmth of compassion, that fences built with generosity were stronger than walls made of stone, and that sometimes the smallest gestures could ignite a legacy that would outlast the fiercest storms. Silas's life had been forever changed by that simple act of sharing a blanket, and through him, countless others found the courage to open their hearts and rewrite their own stories. In the vast and often unforgiving expanse of the Old West, where survival demanded strength and solitude, the story of Silas and Eli teaches us a timeless truth. True power lies not only in resilience, but in the simple act of kindness. From a cold winter night where a worn blanket was shared, grew a community bound by generosity, trust, and hope. Their journey reminds us that even in the harshest conditions, compassion can warm the coldest hearts and spark a legacy that lasts far beyond a single lifetime. This tale is a testament to the extraordinary ripple effect one small gesture can have on the world around us. Silas's choice to share his blanket with a frozen boy was not just an act of mercy. It was a seed planted in the barren soil of hardship, which blossomed into a flourishing sanctuary where humanity thrived. It challenges us all to consider what might happen if we chose empathy over indifference, if we reached out instead of turning away. As you carry this story with you, remember that every moment offers an opportunity to build bridges where others see walls. The greatest victories often come not from battles fought with guns, but from the courage to connect, to give, and to believe in the goodness within others. Silas and Eli's legacy lives on as a beacon for those willing to choose kindness, proving that even the smallest light can brighten the darkest night. So before you go, think about the ways you can make a difference in your own world. What simple act of warmth or generosity might change the course of someone's life? Share your thoughts below, because your story, your kindness, could be the spark that ignites hope in ways you never imagined. Together, we create a chain of compassion stronger than any frontier. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to join a community where powerful tales like this inspire and uplift every day. Like the gifts left on Silas's fence, your support helps keep these stories alive and growing. Hit the like button and leave a comment. Let's keep this legacy of kindness burning bright, one story at a time.